Hi, we're going to talk about explaining the 259 commission to a seller first, and then we'll go through explaining that to a buyer as well. So Heidi, great to see you. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Chris?
Good. Well, we've talked a lot about the marketing of what we do to get homes sold. And I wanted to take a quick moment and walk you through some of the documentation on how we actually get your home on the market. So I'm going to start, first of all, here's a listing agreement, which we'll go over in a moment. But first, I think probably most important to you is what we call a seller's net sheet. What it does, it kind of walks you through the expenses you're going to have when we are successful in causing your home to sell, and at the closing table, and you're getting your check to go on and buy the next home that you were talking about you wanted to buy. So here's just kind of a quick summary of some of the expenses you're going to have when you sell your home. First of all, there'll be some title costs involved, and you'll see the numbers over here. For the title services include things like the title service fee, the owner's title insurance premium, the payoff processing fee. We also have taxes, because obviously you pay property taxes on your home, so we'll prorate for the current year that we're in right now until the day of closing. Then we'll also be looking at the real estate commissions, which I mentioned earlier. And our fee, by the way, is comprised of two different elements. There's the $259 commission plus my 6% fee that I charge my best clients. And then obviously we need to pay off your existing.
So can I stop you for a second?
Of course.
So when we sold in the past,
Yeah.
I think it was just a flat 6% commission. So
Right.
what's the 259 fee?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think I mentioned a little bit earlier about the things that we do. And I think part of the process is that the company I'm with currently, we're really known for our property marketing, which will benefit you greatly when it comes to selling your home, because obviously we specialize in getting homes sold quickly. We do a lot. And I mentioned earlier, we'll have a professional photographer come out and actually photo your home. We use that great imagery, magazine-grade imagery, to produce a 30-second television spot, which will air after 9 news on Saturday morning on the TV show. But I also use that video, as I mentioned earlier, to get the property out on YouTube and various other sites. I'll also put an ad in Carter Homes and Lifestyles magazine, and even though the pages are $4,000 a page, we just think having some presence there is really important because of the demographic, the powerful demographic. I'm also going to produce cards to go out to 50 of the surrounding homes so your neighbors know your home's in the marketplace. And of course, we'll create the electronic brochure that we talked about to allow folks who are driving by to see more about your property. We'll create really high-end brochures. And lastly, I'll make sure that the property is on Realtor.com in not just the normal way, but really in an enhanced way. So it looks its very best, so it shows up before other properties. So these kinds of things obviously don't come free, but it's one of the reasons we were able to sell 9,080 homes last year, more than any other real estate company in Colorado. We find that going the extra mile makes a difference. And we don't charge you anything for this until the home sells. And how our fee is structured is the $259 plus the 6%.
Okay.
All right, make sense?
No, it makes sense.
Okay, all right. Do you want to ask me if maybe I'd waive it for you?
Is that negotiable? I mean, is it?
No, I'm sorry, it's not.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, great. Then there's some of the fees that we have to pay off your loan, as I mentioned before. So if all goes as planned, you'll end up with a number kind of like this. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Well, I just want to make sure you have a copy of this to review, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's break there. You can keep going. But we'll kind of break there in the presentation. And then why don't we ask any other seller-sided questions about the $259 fee now while it's the seller side? By the way, you have a delightful family here. They look just charming.
Oh, thank you.
Really, really nice. Do you have any questions about the $259 fee that we charge? Why we charge it if it's waived?
Anybody have any questions?
Yes, yeah.
I've worked with another agent before and they didn't charge that, so what exactly is that $259 doing?
Oh, that's a really fair question. And although I can't speak to other companies, because every company, and quite frankly every agent, has their own fee structure. What I found is mine is very conservative and very results oriented. And again, it's part of what has made me successful. And I can't speak to what the other company is going to do for the fee they charge. Here's what I can tell you. No one will do the kind of marketing that I will do to get your home sold. It doesn't come free. But at the end of the day, probably what you're most concerned about is how much you're going to net on the sale and not how much our fee structure is. Is that the case with you too?
Absolutely.
Now, I may didn't quite answer the question specifically. Where does it go? And if you ask one more time, well, yeah, I understand you do all that. Where does it go? I would say it almost covers the cost of the photography. Almost. Because that's true. If you look at the cost structure of getting good photo taken. I wouldn't know the details about where the money goes in the company because it doesn't really matter to them.
Okay.
Try and keep it relevant to them.
Sure.
Any other questions about the $259 fee? Here's what I think you're going to find out. On the listing side, it's really a non-event. It's a total non-event. I would be stunned if it even comes up. Because quite frankly, most sellers don't sell enough times to be as savvy as you were to even ask that question. But at the end of the day, if you feel in your mind, like I do, that what you provide is so heads and tails above your competition, and in some cases your competition is charging more than you are, that's crazy. You deserve to get paid for the work that you do, and providing services at this level doesn't come free. You're not there to do this for free. You need to earn a living. And we need to make sure that we're sustainable to you, because the worst thing we could do is provide all this stuff, get you really excited about it, and then all of a sudden 6 months from now say, Heidi, I gotta talk to the agents. We can't keep doing this. We're going out of business. Well, that's horrible. My responsibility is to make sure Coldwell Banker, your business partner, is sustainable, not just this month, not just 6 months from today, but 5 years from today. And that's where the money really goes, is it just makes the whole thing work. Okay, let's go to the buyer side. So on the buyer side, it may be a little bit more complicated. So let's just kind of use a real world scenario there. So again, when I would come to the buyer meeting, and that could be the first house that I'm meeting my buyer at, could be at their home, their current home, could be at the office here. But I always want to go over 3 things we learned earlier. 3 things at that meeting. What are they? The first thing I want to mention is I want to make sure we talk about agency. In whatever fashion I'm going to be working with you, I want to make sure we talk about that. Number 2, I always want to make sure I bring with me a sample of the agreement they will be signing. So Heidi, what I have here is a sample purchase agreement. So when we find the home of your dreams, this is the document we're going to be executing to begin that process of buying your home. I don't want you to be surprised at the time we actually find your home, because in today's competitive buying environment, we may find that we have to move very, very quickly when we find the home that's perfect for you. So I want to make sure you have time now to review this. So I'll leave that with you. I also thought it might be kind of helpful, because you don't do this every day, and although I see this happen all the time, I want to make sure that you're really advised and knowledgeable about the buying process. What I have is what's called a buyer's net sheet here, and it goes through just a sample. This isn't for you specifically, because I don't know the price of the home you're going to buy or the kind of loan you're going to get, but here are the assumptions I made. I made the assumption that we're going to be looking at a moderate priced home in the market, about $285,000. I also made the assumption that you're going to put 10% down. Now, if you want to do an FHA loan, you put 3% down. If you don't want what's called mortgage insurance, you can put 20% down. You can buy cash if you want to. I don't know the details yet. We'll talk about that later. But here's a sample if you just put 10% down. So those are the assumptions I've made. Here's the purchase price of the home, and here's the title insurance fees that you're going to have. They're not a lot. There's $125, and here's the owner's policy at $1,200, and the appraisal fee for your new loan, should you get a new loan, and the recording fees. And then I want to make sure you see this here. This is it says real estate commission $259. I just want to make sure that you understand that your only obligation to me for all the time I spend with you and helping you find the home of your dreams will be $259. And by the way, I'll make sure you're very clear. You will not pay that until you actually not only find the home of your dreams, but you actually close on it. You become the owner. If at any time during the process you are unsuccessful in finding the home that we think we can find for you, you don't pay me a penny. Is that fair?
I guess so, but I have a question, you know, as I'm obviously interviewing agents
Yes,
right now.
which is a good idea.
Nobody else has brought that up, so I'm kind of curious as to why you charge that, and, you know, why that's something that I have to be responsible for.
Well, then that's a great question. And I would go back to saying that I don't know what other companies charge. You know, some charge less, some charge more. What I can tell you is the only reason I'm in this business today, and I've been in it so long, is that I've been able to deliver exceptional value to the clients that I work with. And I just want to make sure that you recognize that there's no obligation beyond that. But you would be obligated to pay the $259 again once you close on the home. And it's built into all the normal costs that occur in the sales, so it isn't like you're bringing a separate check or anything like that. But it's just the way that I'm able to do what I'm able to do. It's, you know, the time I spend with you. I don't charge by the hour. I could do that if you'd prefer that, but I find this is usually the best way to do it. Yeah.
All right, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's customary in the business that I do. I think you're going to find that it's really not an issue. Any other fee that I might get for the time, you know, the month or two that we may spend together looking at maybe 100, 200 homes, that will all come from the seller.
Okay.
Okay, great. So that's an approximate amount of money you bring to the closing table. So again, based on a 10% loan, 10% down payment, you'll be looking at about 13% or whatever that number might be.
Okay.
Okay, great objection. Other objections you might receive from a buyer in this process?
Alicia had a good one. When Alicia was talking about her investors.
Right.
And the
Well, no,
repeat,
I have a
and her
client that
repeated,
I've worked with as an agent.
Yes,
I have a
yes.
client that worked with several years, and each year they buy 3 to 5 properties. You know,
Right.
why all of a sudden are they gonna
How to
find
explain this
value?
now?
I've already
Yeah.
given them great service,
Right,
now
exactly.
I'm gonna
What's gonna be
say,
different for
you
them?
get great service, but
Right. Well, let me just,
259.
this is probably a really good time to talk about kind of the general pieces of this puzzle anyway, and that is, we don't charge the fee on FHA loans. We don't charge it on VA loans. We don't charge it on CHAFA loans, many relocation deals, and we only charge it on 2 transactions per client in a given calendar year. So that's important to remember that. So on average, we're only charging this on about 61% of all of our transactions. However, it is already pre-written into every listing agreement that we do. It's also pre-published in every buyer agency agreement and transaction broker buyer agreement that we have. They're already there. It's already built in. And I would recommend just going through it as you normally would, because you don't know at the time that you're doing the actual presentation if you're going to have an FHA loan or a VA loan. Does that make sense? So now I think your concern is, geez, I got this buyer, he's an investor, does business with me multiple times. I don't want to charge the first 2 fees to him. Well, understand this. You don't have to charge any of this cost to your client if you don't want to. We highly recommend you allocate the cost where the benefit is derived, and that is with the client. But if you needed to make a decision, a business decision, to pay that fee for a really valuable client who has a lot of multiple business with you, then feel free to do that. In fact, last year, with our 9,080 transactions that we closed, 4% of the time, our agents paid that fee, 4% of the time. It wasn't very often. But they'll pay it when they're charging 7% on a $1 million deal. You know, those kinds of situations where they realize, you know what, it's easier and cleaner to do it this way. So understand you don't have to charge it. But again, I think what I might do is I might reformat it. I might say to my buyer client, not even say it to them, because it wouldn't apply, I would charge them nothing on the buy side. I would pay it. Because I know for every buy that they do, I'm going to get a sale, because they're going to list
That's
it.
good. Yeah.
So on the listing side, what I may do is I may modify the $259 fee to $495. And I may charge $495 on the listing side. Because that way I can talk about all the marketing that I'm going to do. And I would probably argue that my investor client would be thrilled to learn of all the marketing I'm going to do now for them that means real money to them. This is really valuable. If you're a professional seller, I'll give you an example. Our relocation clients love this. Because for years, they've never exactly known what their agent was doing to get the home sold. Now, all of a sudden, our relocation clients, listing clients, have a roadmap of what they know is going to happen on the homes that they own, and they want to get out of inventory quickly. So I think you'll find that same thing will cross over to your investor clients. So you can always charge
That's
them.
a great way to handle that.
That makes sense. Other questions? Objections? Okay, overall, here's what I would say. This is a much bigger deal to us, because it's new to us, than it is to a client. Most of our clients are very grateful to work with people they know, like, and trust. They want to do business with you, and they know, they understand that you need to make a living. And there are certain costs you have to incur to do business. And they just want to make sure that they're being treated fairly and honestly. And clearly, I think with what you're able to deliver them, you meet that criteria. You meet that test, hands down. So don't make it a bigger deal than it really is.
I think back to when I started selling real estate and how hard it was for me to go and ask for a full commission.
Yeah.
And years later, realizing I have value,
Yeah.
and I bring tons of value to the table, which is why I am worth that commission. And I think when new agents come into business, I see that a lot. And this is just one of those mind things. I definitely agree with that.
It's a great example, great analogy. When we analyze our 1,000 agents, the agents who charge the highest fees are, ironically, the agents who are doing the most business. Now think about that a minute. So you'd almost think, well, I'm going to discount my fee. This is part of the discount fee process. If you pay this on behalf of your client, what you're really just doing is you're just discounting your fee. That's all you're doing. But it's ironic how the people that do the most business don't have to discount their fee. It's almost a diminishing return. The more you discount your fee, the less business you're going to end up doing. Which is really interesting, especially on the listing side, because I think what most sellers really want is they want to know that there's been no rock left unturned. That really everything's been done to cause their home to sell, right? So if I'm going to pay you less, knowingly pay you less, then don't I have to expect you're going to do less? I mean, logic just tells you, you can't pay less and expect to get more. There's no logic behind that. I don't care if it's real estate or a lawyer or a doctor, medical services, a car, all those things. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of what you do. Never, ever be embarrassed about what you charge a client. I think everyone in this room would agree that you're worth more than you're getting paid right now. You put more of your heart, more of your soul, you compromise your family's time. You compromise your personal time to provide the level of service that you're able to deliver. Far more than a doctor does. Far more than any lawyer I know does. Be
Well, and
proud
as
of
a
who you are.
company, we have systems that we are able to provide by charging a fee like that.
Yeah.
We have better services that do nothing but help the client.
That's and that's why we say this fee should
Professionalism.
be paid by the client, because this is a client-derived benefit cost. There's no question about that. Certainly more than the $495 I paid at Champ for their handling fee of the car. Even though I understand it, and I'll go back and I'll buy more cars from them. Get a lot more value out of this, I think.